As you can see, I've brought you to a still working churchyard, but we are about to see why I've brought you here. But before we go into that, I spotted on my journey here this gravestone with the words that I thought were really beautiful on it, so I thought I'd show you. So I've had some inquiries about why there are these footers or ends on a graveyard. Now there are two reasons for this. One is because a family member was possibly interred there at a later date and there wasn't enough room on the stone, so they put them on an end. And as you can't have two massive gravestones on a grave plot, they normally just put their initials on the end of the grave. But actually, 9 times out of 10, the real reason is to just mark the end of the plot or the person's grave so you can see where the next burial could take place. Now, just in case you can't read this royal engineer died in 1914s from wounds he received in action in France, and he is actually buried in France, but this was a memorial to him. Now please excuse me if you can hear some rumbling in the background. I am actually doing a voiceover whilst there's a thunderstorm going on, so please excuse the noise. We're coming up to the reason why I've brought you here. I just love a ruin. Now, this ruin is based near Bury St Edmunds and is the abandoned St John the Baptist Church. Now, this is one of two churches in Stanton, the other being All Saints. In years gone by, the churches covered separate parishes. However, when they combined the parishes, they were unable to afford two churches. This led to St John the Baptist being built in the 14th century, eventually being abandoned. Even in 1810, the church was said to be in a very bad state of repair, but it was restored in the 1850s. By 1910, the church was only being used for burials, and by 1962 it had been left empty for many years, and its roof was removed to discourage thieves from stealing the wood it was made from, and so it wouldn't collapse on people. There is also said to be a special passageway that was built in the 15th century underneath the church tower. Now let's head out into the church graveyard to see what we can find. So in the beginning of the video we saw where the burials are being done today. This was out the front of the church. Now the old grave site is round the back, and as you can see it is a little bit neglected, but it's good for the environment. Now we've all heard of the saying 6 feet under. Well, the reason for this is in 1665 the plague was rampaging through London, and the Lord Mayor issued an order that all burials are to be at least 6 feet deep. He decided that 6 feet was the appropriate depth to go for. Ever since Norman times, burials of the common person tended to be quite shallow, and churches earned a decent income from burials, so plots were often reused many times, with the disinterred bones moved to ossuaries. So the sudden decision to go for a very deep grave could have been down to fears that shallow graves would let the plague spread through the air as bodies decomposed. There are a number of theories as to why they thought that 6 feet was a good depth. Some thought that the deepest a human person could dig is 6 foot, and they could still get the soil out of the hole by throwing it as they were digging. They didn't have diggers in those days. However, I don't think this is true, because There were mass graves dug for the very poor, and the depth of these graves could be as much as 20 feet below ground level. So, as some of you may know, what I normally do when I walk around these graveyards is I normally fall over, especially when there are like this. So walking around somewhere like this is quite hazardous for me, but I'm yet to film myself falling over. But don't worry, when I do, you'll all be the first to see it. I just love the way that nature has grown in and around these tombstones. The roots have grown over them, and it was just beautiful. Now these ones, where they're coffin shaped and actually look like there might be a body in there, they actually are the ones that I don't actually like, which is really surprising because when I do find something interesting in a graveyard, like a coffin or something, I just think it's amazing. So I don't know why the tomb-shaped coffins freak me out so much. This tree has obviously grown naturally through this gravestone, but that is the danger of having a tree planted on your grave, is while it's lovely, it will in time upheave all the earth. The roots will interfere with the gravestone. But personally, I would quite like that because the tree actually takes nutrients from your body. So you would actually be nourishing the tree, and in essence, you would be part of that tree. So I quite like that idea, personally.